Hello and welcome to Hack It. In this episode, I want to introduce you to a dear friend, an old colleague from my past life from SoftBank Vision Fund, my lovely friend, Nahoko. Nahoko, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. I would love to start with you sharing your story with everybody.
Thank you, Sakshi. It's a pleasure to be here and to see you like this. So I've known Sakshi for more than 5 years, and that's how long I've been doing this investment job. I joined the SoftBank Vision Fund a bit more than 5 years ago, and it's a late-stage growth, the usual tech investing in anything more in software than hardware. But that's how I moved to London 5 years ago, and I've been here since. My story in a nutshell, I guess I started in Japan. I'm Japanese, native Japanese, and I had the opportunity to study abroad, to go all the way to New Mexico in the US to do some boarding school stuff. And then I decided that I need to change continents, so I came to London to the university. And then I missed home, so I went back to Japan, joined an investment bank, did the usual finance stuff. That was fun, went to business school, got an MBA, and then I jumped to the buy side doing public investments. That was a bit boring, I didn't like it. I needed a change, so I went to a pastry school in Paris, did a course, wanted to become a patisserie. Didn't happen, but I ended up landing a job in a startup, which was based in Washington, D.C. It did very early stage AI stuff. That was fun. I think for the first time, I understood what it is like to be on the other side of the table. And after 2 years, my shares vested, I was looking for the new opportunity, and I found this job. So ever since, I've been here.
Amazing. And what's it like? What's it like to be at SoftBank? So by the way, I get asked this question all the time. So it's the first time that I am asking this question to someone else. It's been 3 years since I left SoftBank.
Yeah.
And, I think everyone knows SoftBank is not just any tech, growth equity fund. It's quite special, right? In that sense that it was the first one, compared to the normal VCs like Sequoia and Andreessen and, all the big names. It was the first one to actually raise that massive $100 billion fund. It was highly controversial, right? Can you make returns on those checks? Can you make return on those stages? Can these companies ever be profitable? And I think SoftBank proved some of those theories right, some of those theories wrong, right? In many senses. And Masa's very special. You having lived in Japan probably know him even better than I do. So tell us, what's your experience been like?
Definitely the Vision Fund made a big wave when it raised that big 100 billion fund. It changed the way people do investing. And because of that, we got a lot of attention. Everyone was talking about WeWork, everyone was talking about Uber, how you make decisions, what kind of guy is Masa. No one really knew, right, from the outside.
Yeah.
But, from the inside, as it's pretty usual stuff happens, right? You have the normal, the politics, the decision makings, you have to do your analysis, you have to do your job. So it's pretty routine in the sense, but I think what I really appreciate is that you get the opportunity to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's no limits to what you can do because the fund is so big and because you get access to all these founders and opportunities.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for me, that was definitely also, something that I really appreciated while I was at SoftBank was that no idea is a crazy idea. No dream is a big, too big to happen kind of dream, right? So I think that gave us an opportunity to go deep into subjects that no one else dared to look into. We were looking at AI way before anybody else was looking at AI, or robotics or, IoT or whatever. And, at the end of the day, Masa did turn out to be right. He's been talking about AI for the last, I think, better part of the last decade, I would say. Since I joined SoftBank, he had a big thesis on AI and, was criticized for it. And look where we are today, right? AI has been the savior of the industry.
Yep.
So that's why I think he is very special. I think all of us we're human beings. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, right? I'm sure he does too. But yeah, working with him, for him, he's quite special.
Yeah, he's always ahead of the curve. That's
Yeah.
why people
His intuition.
understand him. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
He takes very bold decisions.
Yeah.
Which makes people uncomfortable at times. But
Yeah.
then, he has
Especially
been
in
right a couple
consumer.
of times. Right.
I think
Agreed.
especially in consumer, he's just got these intuitions based on his experiences as an entrepreneur,
Yep.
as an operator. And yeah, he just has conviction and he sticks with it. So let's talk more about, just women, being a female in a very male-heavy environment in finance.
Yeah, it's not easy, right? Definitely not easy. It's a very high demanding job. I think so tech investing for me is you need to be good at both the analytical side, you need to have the skill sets and be very good at that. But at the same time, there's a lot of EQ required. So it's all of the interpersonal skills. That means that you have to be at dinners and drinks and network. And it does require a lot of travel as well. So I'm on the road probably at least every month, right? So to maintain all of that, and by the way, I mean, you're a mom, I'm a mom, I have a 4-year-old son, a single mom actually. So, it requires a bit more of managing your 24 hours more than, I don't want to generalize about but men.
Yeah.
So doing all of that and maintaining a job and being always acute and alert at the job is hard. It's challenging.
Yeah.
Now in terms of dynamics in the boardroom, in the office, it happens in every other industry, but because you do have a lot of high energy type A people who are perfect at everything, I think it's not easy being a female, and I'm not extroverted either, to open up those, to crack open these opportunities and make good relationships and do deals. It's not easy. So I mean, I really appreciate you being there because you need to kind of help each other out. It helps, right? Having not only yourself but another female person in the room.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I fondly remember those times when I think at some point we had a pretty okay balance in the team where I think it was you, me, Liz. And I think maybe on the other team there was one or two others.
Yep.
But at least on our team we had 3 females, and I think how many men? Maybe 5 or 6 or 7 men. But
Probably
still, at
more.
least there was, more than one of us.
Yeah.
And we would often go for our lunch catch-ups or we would go for our, evening, whatever, drinks. And, I think... I think, men do that a lot more.
Yes.
Right?
Naturally.
Especially in finance, on Fridays, they look forward to the pub, and they do that on a weekly, bi-weekly, even once a monthly basis. And I think it just builds that natural bond, where they kind of share their highs and lows.
Yeah.
But because we don't have that many of us,
Exactly.
we don't really get those kind of opportunities that much. But I remember that lovely phase in SoftBank where there was, a couple of us and we would go out and, we did capitalize a little bit on that.
Yes.
It didn't last for very long, because we all moved in different directions. But yeah, I think I did feel that there is, it's just natural, it's law of numbers, right? If 90% of the room is, if they look a certain way, right, and 10% of the room looks a very different way, then when it comes to opportunities like making partner, right, which is the big decision, right?
It's an unconscious bias, right?
It's an unconscious bias. You are gonna go for what you're familiar with, right, versus not. And I think even if your work outshines the 90%, so even if you're in the 10%, but your returns are way higher than the other 90%, right? I still believe that there is that unconscious bias where people are not able to cut the sort of signal from the noise and go for, the returns driven, the merit driven, way into partnership. Because becoming a partner, I think, is a big one in finance. Getting promoted from an analyst to an associate to a senior associate to a VP to a director, when it comes from director to a partner, that is where I think you kind of have you stop looking at the data so much, which is
Yeah.
so counterintuitive.
It is.
Because
Because you need everyone's buy-in to be promoted to partner, right? I think it's like a very different.
Exactly. And then people on the
Decision-making.
table, they're all males.
Yes. Yes.
So how do they even pick a female who is so different from them, who looks different from them, who has different challenges to them?
Yeah.
Who has the capability for childbirth, will become a mother, is a mother,
So that's why we need more people. We need more senior women.
Yeah, we do. But you do see a big drop off as well, right?
You do,
Like
you do.
after women give birth.
Yes.
Because childcare in this country is not easy,
No.
and it's quite discouraging to know that there is an unconscious bias,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like how do you solve for that? And I mean, actually, I would love to also talk about, you being born and brought up in Japan. I was born and brought up in India. Similar, but still different cultures. Similar in the sense that like women, I think, historically were supposed to belong. They were not the primary bread earners.
No.
Right?
No.
Whereas now I think this generation is different,
Yeah.
where we go toe to toe with the males for education, MBAs and finance roles, and are the primary bread earners. So big cultural change.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your view on that, bringing in the culture, plus what can you do to solve this unconscious bias?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and I think about it a lot as I am a bit older now and kind of more mature to kind of address these topics without being so ashamed to talk about these. I mean, growing up in Japan, I definitely was more of the academic type within the girls group. However, it's very much I don't want to say backwards, but it's a very unique culture where, as you say, the men are always the breadwinners. The women, they're expected to have a proper job, but to take time off to spend time with their children once they become a mom. And the drop-off rate is very, very high. To come back to the workplace is not impossible, but with challenges. Like, you're making so much sacrifice. You need to get your consensus from your husbands. It's not like a given that a woman would come back to work after giving birth. And also, like, within the workplace, I think the stereotype of a Japanese woman in the office is that you're always, making tea, bringing tea to the men. When you are at a dinner setting, you're expected to, pour alcohol and drinks to the men in the table, and people do it so naturally because you grow up with it. You
Even
don't
if
even question it.
Even if you're at the same level as them.
Even if you're at the same level, even if you're senior to the men in that room.
Oh,
And people don't
interesting.
really mind. Like, I never really thought about it because it's so natural. But then, like, coming to London and going to like more westernized schools, you realize that that's I think accelerating more of those biases, right?
Yeah.
Because
right.
you're doing everyone a favor to say that
Yeah.
women don't really belong there and not equal in these rooms. So I think for me, it has been consciously making the effort not to do that, not to be the woman in the room who would be, let's say, more reserved, more quiet, because you need to speak up, because you need to, have a voice, right? So making those conscious efforts is what I have been doing. I don't know. I don't think I do it well enough, but like you definitely have those extra challenges, I think.
Yeah, how interesting. So, how was your experience at SoftBank? Like, how did you overcome that in the day-to-day workings at SoftBank as an investor, being Japanese, overcoming that culture bias, being an introvert, but being in the middle of this like alpha team, in the heyday of SoftBank when we had so much money to invest and markets were at an all-time high, so everybody was shouting and screaming to make their voices heard and their deals to get done. And how did you kind of get your voice heard or overcome those?
Yeah, no, so I wanted to ask you that as well, because for you it seems to come more naturally, right? I think you're very good at that. You have very good interpersonal skills. I think seeing you do that really helped me to not feel so insecure about speaking up. Because if it was just myself, like I wouldn't be able to do it, right? I'll be too reserved and too shy. But I think, because life at SoftBank is so crazy, you have to kind of learn on the ropes.
Yeah.
You don't really have time to get training on that or anything. You kind of throw in there and you survive or you sink, right?
Yeah.
So the last 5 years has been like that. There has been situations where you're in a boardroom, you're the only minority female person, but you still have to do your job.
Yeah.
So you try everything to establish relationship with the other board members, try to go there in person, being at the meetings as much as you can, trying to express your opinion and have a say. It's not easy, but I guess you just have to do it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think life is a learning experience, and I think
Absolutely.
for us, I think women are on a learning curve.
Yeah.
Some women are some women face a culture bias, like just overcoming small things, small wins.
Yep.
Some
totally
women
resonate
are
with that.
some women are extroverted, and so using that as their superpower to kind of keep going ahead and one step ahead of the other.
Yep.
Some women are introverted and they're trying more to kind of
Yep.
get on the extroverted side and have that balance. I would say the extroverted also try and get the introverted balance, where it's about matching those energies. So I think life is a learning experience. I think both for men and women, if I had to say that. But yeah,
I agree.
I do think maybe being a woman and being on this learning curve, being a mother, you have to make sacrifices.
Yes.
I'm not so sure if men do. I'm sure some do, but I feel that every woman, who's chosen this path where she is the only woman in the room, whether as an entrepreneur or as an investor, I feel that there are sacrifices.
No, I agree. And I think the biggest learning that I've had after having a child and coming back to this life is that you can't be perfect all the time. You just don't have time for that, right? Like I think I've learned to be happy with 75%.
Yeah.
If it's 75% good, it's satisfactory.
Yeah.
And those small wins, as you say, you just need to accumulate it to make sure that you feel good about yourself, that you feel like you're progressing and learning.
Yeah.
And, looking back, I think that was a good experience to have, right? I feel like I'm much more mature, much stronger.
Yeah.
I can carry on.
Yeah.
So very grateful.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I say to myself. That's what I say to my kids. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
They will understand one day.
Yeah, they will understand one day. Everybody has their own learning curve.
Yes.
So tell me more about this relationship between investors and founders. When you meet a founder, what is it that you like in a founder that kind of, gravitates you towards, like, let me do due diligence on this business because there's something here?
So that's a $1 billion question, right? And I think I'm still learning, especially on this point, because it's hard because I've been burnt in the past. We've had some good successes in the past as well. And it really, at the end of the day, it's a human business. You meet someone, do you trust this person? Do you trust this person to run a company?
Yeah.
Do you want to support and contribute to the company, to the success? You don't know. It's not like speed dating, right? So it's a process that is different every time. But I think for me, it really, we can talk about the product market fit and the TAM and the growth potential and all of that. But the bottom line is, it's really the high energy that the founder will bring, because you do need to have that energy to hire people, you sell your product or your service, and it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah.
So I definitely, if I don't sense that passion for what they do, if they can't give 100% or 120% into this, then it's difficult for me to believe in them.
Yeah.
And I think it's vice versa, right? It's both ways.
It's a partnership.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because then once you invest, then you sit on the boards. So tell us more about that. So creating a board, creating an advisory board, independent directors, tell us what your ideal setup would be or advice would be for a founder.
Again, I think it really varies. But what I found is that if the business is doing well, it doesn't really matter who's on the board.
Yeah.
It's about having this quarterly checkup, see if everything is good, the governance and all. But it's when the market is tough,
Yeah.
or when the business is struggling, or when you have to make a pivot and you have to make these crucial decisions. And for that, I mean, in textbook, you read that diversity is very different and very important. You should have different perspectives. It's going to help you in the long term.
Yeah.
I didn't really, I believed in that, but I thought, okay, that's just that's written. But because of 2022 and 2023, those tough years that some of my portfolio companies have been going through, I think it really helped to have a diverse board who have board members who are not shy to challenge, even if it means that you have to make a big pivot that is very uncomfortable. Sometimes it means that you have to reorg or cut costs or streamline your business. But because we had those discussions, what the outcome was, everyone felt comfortable that you're all in it and very committed. So diversity, I think, it's talked about it all the time, but in reality, I think it's underestimated, and I cannot emphasize more.
Yeah, that probably makes sense because, I think when you come from a different culture, there is a certain level of empathy, that you bring to the table. So that totally makes sense. And then tell us more about power dynamics. I've been part of boards where, it's just a board for namesake, right? And literally all the power is in the founder, and there is there's voting, but no one has, enough votes to outvote the founder. Right. And then I've been in parts of boards where vice versa, so tell us more about that. What's a healthy, how much is the board's influence, on the company? How comfortable are you kind of going up against the founder? Is that really your job? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about this very particular case where remember you and I and Liz, we went all over to Kansas City to diligence a company. Yeah, that was a very eye-opening experience, right? It's in the middle of the US and very unique founder board dynamics. Yeah. It was very different from what we expected, right? Yeah. Not specifically about that case itself, but I think in general, for me personally, I don't think it makes much sense to go up against the founder per se, because you do need to respect someone who has created something. It's their baby. Yeah. And they've devoted everything in their life, right? And then as an investor, especially a late-stage investor coming in, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years after the launch of the business, and to come in and challenge some of the decisions, which you kind of learned in your 6 months crash course. Yeah. I wouldn't take it so lightly to do that. I think the respect to the founder is very different, very important. Yeah. But it's more about understanding the nuances and the dynamics of the board, who you should be speaking with. You shouldn't be ganging up against the founder, but the communication, who should make those difficult conversations, who should be raising those difficult questions. I think you need to understand that and position yourself where you feel that is your best fit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there is that fine balance. I mean, being part of founder's board is that you are the sounding board for the founder, where when they're making big decisions, they would love to get your view on it, and they would love you to challenge it where necessary, but support them where necessary. But it is that fine balance, because there is a power dynamic, especially as the company grows older, and some people want to say things just to make a point, whereas some people say it genuinely, so I think I think creating your board I think it needs interpersonal skills and
Yep.
relationships, in
Yep.
my opinion.
Yep. Which is exactly what you're going through right now, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually now thinking of creating a board, because we've been doing this. So far, I've not needed to create a board because I knew exactly what I was executing. But I think as we now think about expanding the business, we've actually just launched our AI app for the consumers. And as we think about expanding this beyond the UK, in different countries now, you need to bring in some smart people, some independent directors. What are your view on independent directors? Like, who makes for a good independent director?
So that I think really, really is case by case, right?
Yeah.
Like it really depends on what the company needs. So I think you can't really generalize on that point.
Yeah.
But someone who brings in something very, very unique that only that person can bring. And it could be anything from like, I don't know, accounting skills to like business acumen to like all the connections, whatever it is. It has to be so unique that you're actually paying for that independent director
Yeah.
to contribute,
Yeah.
their perspectives and their network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about like, let's go back to like SoftBank and the team, or not just SoftBank, any organization, right? And now, when you're building your team and you're hiring these, fresh graduates, right? Like, how easy is it for you to build a team, with more females or more minority, females or males or whatever? Like, how easy is it to get it through the line?
Yeah, so that's a very sensitive topic because I think we're also trying to hire right
Okay.
now. I mean, we're always hiring, right?
Yeah.
But then because we're such a small team, like in Europe, there's only 12 of us, the core team, and then you have life sciences, which is like 3 more, but it's still a very tight team. And the question is, if you're going to add like 1 or 2 more, who should it be? And of course, the obvious question of the female versus male.
Yeah.
The appropriateness comes up because unfortunately there aren't that many female candidates out there. I think VC is becoming more and more mainstream, but still I think the number of candidates that we screen every time, it's more skewed towards the male. So we have to kind of like reach out and deliberately pull out these female candidates. And maybe it's just that the way they write their resumes is not as confident, right? Like they tend to not brag about their accomplishments in the past. They tend to talk about themselves like, 50% instead of like say, oh, this is what I did, look at me. The attitude difference is definitely there. So you do need to kind of like push them a little bit. I mean, ultimately we would make a choice on meritocracy and the fit, the capabilities. But I think at the initial stage, you do need to give them a bit of a nudge.
Why do you think that is? This comes up as a recurring thing on this podcast, where I've had like different guests ranging from founders to, women who've been in sales roles in these tech companies to, and this theme comes up. And they even see it in the founder community, male founders versus female founders. I'm not sure if you see that.
Yeah.
But the confidence thing comes up where no one, like females don't tend to be like beating their chest and saying, I'm so amazing, look at me, and I'm building the next big, I don't know, Amazon, Apple, LinkedIn, like, whereas the males have that extra bit of confidence and it helps them in their pitches and
I mean, many things behind that, right? But coming from a Japanese culture, it definitely is this thing about when women look strong and confident, it's not very sexy. It's not very attractive in the eyes of both men and women, right? Like you don't want to come across as someone being arrogant, being overly confident of yourself, because you fear that you're going to lose your friends and your supporters. Like that's the last thing you want to do. And definitely the education, right? Like the way that you're brought up. You're definitely not encouraged to be that strong woman.
Is that changing now, or is it still viewed like if you're strong, and let's say if you're a female founder in Japan, right? Like, and you have to be confident to be pitching, right? But that means that you probably feel that you're not sexy and you're not desired, right?
Yeah, it's changing.
You think it's changing, or is it still?
But again, this unconscious bias is always there, because as a founder, your job is to succeed in your business, but at the same time, at some point, you need to go out and raise, right?
Yeah.
So it is a human business, and you don't want to come across as that annoying woman. So I think it's not so easy just to let go of all of that and be yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, the more female founders, entrepreneurs that you would have, it would make it much easier.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, like especially now, I mean, I feel I have so much respect for the people who are actually doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not easy.
It's not easy, and that's one of the reasons we started this podcast, is to have these candid conversations, to understand that, look, it's not easy.
Yeah.
The world is not easy, life is not easy.
No.
But that's the beauty, right, of life, is that you go through this really tough road, and maybe you find someone like yourself, right. You become friends, the road becomes easier, for a little while. You take those learnings and now you're sharing it. Mm-hmm. With the wider community who might be on the road by themselves, but know that the more you're on that road, the more you're going to find someone like you on that road. So we need more females. Don't give up. If you want to be with your child after childbirth, totally understandable. But if you have that ambition, there's ways around it. Talk to people. There's always hacks. Like I tell my team, like being a startup, we make stupid mistakes all the time, right? Like we don't like to spend money on like lawyers, for example. So we tend to read contracts ourselves, and then we tend to like sign these stupid contracts that don't have a termination or like a notice period, right? And then like you'll find my team saying, we don't have a choice, guys. Like this is it, we're stuck. And I'm like, there is always an answer. There is always a solution. We never say this. And it's the same thing I say to my kid. It's like, no, but it's done. Like I failed. I'm like, no, we never give up. There's always an answer, right? So I think it's the same thing that goes for this female community, is that just one step ahead of the other. Like, and by the way, I'm sure males have their own challenges.
Absolutely.
Like bringing in cultures, being the pressure of being the primary bread earner. Like God knows they might have their own challenges. I mean, they're lucky that they have a whole community around them who looks like them, who have the same challenges. They talk about it, or they don't, or they drink about it, whatever, right? I think we need to create that.
Yes.
Yes. And we need to create those good experiences. Where you just one step ahead of the other.
Yeah, I
agree.
Don't give up.
These
small wins, exactly, not giving up, and then it might lead you somewhere that you don't expect, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of life.
Yeah.
And I feel like being female, you have that period where if you do decide to give birth, then it's a big transition. So you get that opportunity for free to learn.
Yeah.
So you should cherish it and enjoy it.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. And I think it's tough. Like I don't want to take it away, because I feel that I'm surrounded by people, half of whom have managed really well after childbirth and half of whom haven't. And I'm close enough to both the groups, but I can't pinpoint exactly why the group hasn't found it easy enough to come back into the work. And like some women I know who are like outperformers, have always been in their life, first in their class, first in their college, dean's list and director's list and all of that, and suddenly childbirth and boom, it's like they've taken a massive fall, and I can see they're putting one step ahead of the other, right? But they're not outshining anymore, and they're used to being outshining in every situation they've been in.
But that's okay. No, if they're happy with it,
exactly.
Maybe it's an epiphany where they've decided that I want to be, spend more time with my child, and that's absolutely fine, right?
Yeah. You have to find the joys in life. You have to find the happiness, and you will outshine again one day. Maybe not today, but you will outshine because you've done it before. You can do it again.
Yes.
Yes. And I think building that community around them,
Yes.
More women talking about it, more of these podcasts. I'm confident that if all of us kind of do that bit, and we build that community around, like taking time for each other.
Yeah, I agree. It's inspirations like these. I mean, I don't think I've known your life too well before this podcast.
That's true.
But sharing these stories would give me the strength to carry on, and it really is inspiring, right? And you do need it.
Yeah.
I definitely need it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all of us do. Even the ones who feel like, oh, they're crushing it, they have it all figured out, it's not true.
Yeah.
Like, it's all an act.
Yeah.
It's a front.
Yeah.
Because for those people who don't know us, we need that front to keep moving ahead. To keep pushing ahead, to keep sharing our stories. Because, like you said, as job of a founder is to, build this product into a massive reality, but also to fundraise. Fundraise is storytelling. Like, go out and tell your story with confidence. Convince you that this is the next best thing in the world.
And
right?
question to you, because it's such a high demanding job, and you probably, I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen your calendar, but it's probably like starts at 7 a.m. and finishes at like midnight.
Yeah.
Fully packed, right?
Yeah.
And you have children and a husband and all that.
Yeah.
How do you unwind and like make time for yourself?
That is so funny. That was actually going to be my next question to you.
Oh.
But you know what? Like I last year was a big year of learning for me, where I have always been this kind of person where, like, once I have a goal in mind, like, I am so tunnel vision, like I need to get there, and I just won't care about anything else in the world, and I'll just keep bulldozing ahead. Like, my husband calls me a bulldozer sometimes, where it's like, once I've decided, right? But then it doesn't really work when you're a founder and a mom and a present mom, because suddenly you start to put yourself right at the end of the queue.
Yep.
Right? Because everybody else is more important than you. And culturally, I come from India, similar to you, right? Like, I've seen my mom being the homemaker. She was a working mom, but still, the primary responsibility of the kids and home was hers, right? My dad was the primary bread earner, but she was a secondary bread earner, but her primary responsibility was the home. And in our culture, it is quite backward, similar to the Japanese, where, women have a second place, right? Where when you sit on a table, automatically you're the primary servers, no matter what your position is. And a lot of it is in my DNA and my genes, and a lot of it I do actually think is good mannerism. Like, I like it and I feel proud of it when I host, and I
know what you mean.
Yeah, and I've learned to embrace that about my culture, that actually it's a nice thing to serve somebody, and
it is.
To speak in a respectful way to your elders, to treat your teachers with respect, whereas you don't see that in certain cultures, especially the more advanced Western countries, where like, I made a shift from the Indian system of education to the British system in Delhi, and it was a massive culture shock. The Indian system of education, you cannot speak a word against your teacher. Your teacher is none less than a god almost, right? That level of respect, and it's super disciplinary. It was a convent school, so women only, girls only. Convent schools are even more strict than normal schools. From there, I shifted to the British system, where you had all the, the sort of foreign kids and all that. And suddenly in the classroom, there was freedom of speech, and the kids were making fun of the teacher and, cracking jokes in class. For me, it was like a whole different planet.
But was it like enlightening for you? Did you feel more at ease?
No, it was very uncomfortable for me. So I was in the Indian education system for 12 years, right? So like nursery, and then all the way till year 10. Giving all this respect to our teachers. And to be honest, I spent the last 4 years in the British system, where honestly I found it very disrespectful, and I still do till today. You need to respect, your knowledge providers. Like, it's not, yes, they're not perfect, but yeah, it's so I think certain parts of my culture I've learned to embrace, and I've learned to love, and I would love to pass that on to my kids, and hopefully I'm doing that slowly. But the downside is, because I come from this culture, I come last in the queue for myself. But then as a founder, if you don't manage that properly, if you don't manage your energy properly, because you have to understand, my product is this, but my product is also me, right? I am the one who's the vision holder here. I am the one who fundraises and tells this story. I'm a solo founder, fortunately, unfortunately, right? So if I don't look after my secondary product, which is me, right, everything was going to suffer. It's a domino. I'm not
So
going to be a
interesting.
happy and a mom around my kids. I'm not going to be a mom who my kids feel inspired to see or be with, right? I'm not going to be a good homemaker, but I'm also not going to do justice to my business. So it was a big learning for me last year that this bulldozing attitude of just going, pushing, just wouldn't work. It's not going to work in the long term. So now the way I unwind, I'm very methodical about it, where, I have a process. Number one is food. It's obvious. Look, this whole company is a founder story driven company where I genuinely changed my diet and managed to reverse what I had. So I've been a believer since day one. And that food and those principles, they still work for me. So I'm a food hack subscriber. Like when I'm not out, I religiously eat food hack food. It really works for me. Because going out, you can put on weight, you feel inflamed, etc. So my food is extremely important. I plan. I actually do put in a lot of thought in planning my food. I don't just, let's see, I'll just walk out and pick up something for lunch. It doesn't happen anymore. And I like it, that I know exactly what I'm eating. And, it really helps with my immunity. You need the immunity to keep going. You need stamina with the travel I have and everything. The second part is sleep. I need my 7.5 to 8 hours of
Wow.
good sleep. I need 7.5 hours of good
That's good
sleep.
sleep.
I'm one of those people, I cannot do without less sleep. Some people proudly, I think we know some people in common who proudly
I slept only 4 hours.
boast about the
Exactly.
fact that I only sleep for 4 hours and I'm a superhuman. I am not that. I'm a human. So I need my good quality sleep. For me, exercise is a non-negotiable. Even when I travel, I need to exercise 4 or 5 times a week. It releases energy. It keeps me in good shape. It's healthcare for me. I'm not doing it for vanity. I'm doing it for healthcare. And then once a week, I try to take out either time for a bath and a whole ritual around bath, like a candle and some music and some, CBD oil in the bath. And
Wow.
yeah, it's a ritual. It's for me, because I'm important.
So nice.
I'm important in this massive queue of kids and their friends and my husband and the house and the, in-laws and the mothers and the fathers. I am important.
That's so great.
You
And
know?
I think it makes you authentic, and that's what makes your business more authentic, right? Because you're in control
Yeah.
and you know what you want.
Yeah. Once a week, I deserve time, a ritual that's for me. If it's a massage, maybe it's that, or it's a bath,
I love it.
Yeah. What about you? How do you unwind?
Wow. Well, I think I'm finally getting to the stage because my son just turned 4.
Yeah.
And for the last 4 years, it has been all about providing for my son. And I don't feel good about that. Looking back, I could have done a better job because I really, really did not spend any time for myself. And maybe it's because, coming from a Japanese upbringing, my mom was also a stay-at-home mom. She did everything for me, and I'm very grateful for that. So it just so comes naturally that, I should give everything to my son as well, just like my mom did for me. And, the Japanese routine is very, very specific from the morning. I would always prepare breakfast for him. And then in the evenings, I'll come back home and always prepare a hot meal for him. Food is very important for me, right?
Yeah.
I think it makes people bond. And it's so important that a child grows up eating your mom's homemade hot food. So for me, it's important. I can't sacrifice on that point. So I just do it every day. But it's draining, right? From morning to until I put him to bed, I have absolutely no freedom. And on top of that, there's a job. So I would wake up, put my son to bed, sometimes, kind of snooze off. But then I'll get myself up at 9 and check emails and do work calls. But because of that, I don't think I cared enough for my health and also my mental well-being.
Yeah.
So from now on, I feel like I need to do a bit more. I like your bath ritual
Yeah.
and your focus on food and exercise. I definitely need to catch up on that. But yeah, I definitely need to make time for myself deliberately
Yeah.
because your schedule just gets so full,
Yeah.
naturally, right?
Yeah. And you should be very proud of all that you've accomplished.
Oh, thank
Each
you.
one of us. I mean, you come from a culture where, it's not normal to be the primary bread earner. You've crossed that boundary, so beautifully, where you are the primary bread earner, for your son, right? Like, you're setting an example for, I don't know, your mom's friends' daughters, right? Who don't know any better, right? It's monkey see, monkey do. It's same as India, right? Like, I don't think I know that many people in my mom's friend circle whose daughters, after getting married, have started something of their own to this scale, or who have got amazing jobs in finance. So we have to continue to break these boundaries, and you've done that. You're the primary bread earner, and you are still able to inculcate the values in your son that you grew up with from a homemaker. So you're able to be both a primary homemaker and a primary bread earner.
I try, at least. I'm definitely not there.
I'm sure you're doing an amazing job, because I can totally relate. Like, there are certain qualities from our cultures that we appreciate, and when we appreciate them, we bring them to the table somehow.
Yeah, because I'm so proud, and you're so proud of your culture too, right?
Yeah. So I think you should be so proud. And this ritual, maybe it's a bath ritual, maybe you make, I've also happened to have tried some of your amazing food. Like, I still remember that amazing Japanese meal that you had prepared. It was phenomenal. So maybe your ritual is, a full-blown, massive, authentic Japanese meal for yourself. Or maybe it's baking, or maybe it's a bath, or maybe it's, I don't know, whatever, right? But like, or even if it's exercise, right?
Yeah.
But like, make it a ritual to celebrate you, because you should be proud. You've broken so many boundaries and recreated the rules of life, right?
I deserve a bath, right?
Yes, you deserve a ritual. You deserve a 13-course meal.
I need some guests for that meal, so I definitely invite you over.
That would be amazing. Very, very good cook, by the way. Anyway, so tell me, which women are inspiring you right now? Maybe we can end with this question.
Oh, I haven't thought about that. Wow, tough one. I don't know, you? Like, you're definitely someone that I look up to, right?
That's so kind.
No, I'm speaking the truth, because the way you maintain that energy, despite your very busy life, is inspiring. I think that's what I need to learn from you.
Yeah.
And just learning about how you kind of unwind and take time for yourself is my next phase, right? That's what I need to do.
Yeah.
Start doing tomorrow.
Yes.
So
yes, I'm going to message you next week.
Yes,
Tell me
please.
your ritual.
Yes, please. I need to think about
Maybe I can switch up my bath ritual. That's amazing.
Yeah, but all the moms, I think, that has helped me get through tough times over the last 3-4 years. Everyone has, gone out of their way, and to have that kind of generosity, the mental capacity is beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's amazing. That's so nice to hear, actually. What a high to end this on. But before we end, we have a third part of the podcast where, I love to share nuggets on food as medicine, because like you said, it's part of my process. It's part of like how I generate energy. Like, food is like top of the list, because you consume food like 3, 4, 5 times a day, depends. What kind of a eater you are. Maybe you eat small meals, but like 5 times a day, or you eat like 3 big meals, or you fast, or you eat 2 big meals. But you're constantly consuming things and putting things in your body, right? And your internal organs, like your body is your temple. These organs are what have to work properly to give you the energy. Because if you don't have physical energy, right, like you won't have the mental energy, since your gut and mind are connected with like over 1,000 neurons, right? So you can't think straight. Right? And then if you don't have physical energy, you just won't have the emotional energy, right, to keep going. So for me, like, food is such a big part of it. And I know that, everyone's like, let's talk about, I don't know, broccoli. Everyone's like, oh yeah, broccoli is super healthy. I'm sure it's got good stuff. Let's just introduce it. That's easily done. But I think for me, I love pulling out nuggets from our AI engine where we look at clinical research and we really understand the benefits of a certain thing. Let's take broccoli today, right? And then next time we think about what veg we should include in our stir fry, or what veg we should include for our kids, or you think, you relate with those benefits, and then you find new ways of introducing them, and you love to enjoy them. Because food for me, and I'm sure it's the same for you, food is love, it's enjoyment, right? So I love sharing these things. So let me share with you what our engine pulled up on broccoli, right? We found like 80 results from different clinical research. And the top benefits were, it's a great source of fiber, protein, vitamins, and minerals. We know this. Let's look at the deeper benefits. It is actually known to prevent cancer. I think that one is an interesting one. Now that we're all like heading towards our 40s and beyond, we need to start looking after our health and start introducing anti-cancer stuff. So it's actually been shown in certain studies that it can potentially prevent stomach cancers and lung cancers and prostate cancers. So even good for men, pancreatic cancers, bladder cancers, and colon cancers. Right? It actually contains these bioactive compounds that have anti-cancer properties, which I think is super cool. It's a chemoprevention agent against various cancers. Also good for cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative, and diabetes. So this is why, broccoli is so special, and we should try and incorporate that in our diet. I actually even sometimes I like to make a puree out of it and just put it in like flour. So you can make like different types of breads or pancake out of it. You can use it in like different ways. I also like to eat my food and not drink it. So for those of us who are thinking, let me just like make a juice and drink it like green juice, I say eat it, because, you eat the fiber. Fiber then lines, the intestines, prevents the insulin shocks when you eat the bad stuff. So eat your veggies rather than drink it. But yeah, let's start to like enjoy broccoli, and remember it could be potentially anti-cancer. Great.
Broccoli is my favorite veggie, and that's my son's favorite veggie. And when I was at a boarding school, our main source of food was just ramen noodles, right? But to balance that out, we used to have broccoli all the time. So I'm a big broccoli eater.
That's
so
amazing.
I'm very glad to hear that they're actually good.
That's
effects.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, luckily I do see here like a lot of kids, when they're given sides of veg, I do see broccoli in there.
Yeah.
Which is great, but let's make sure that we keep continuing that. Because I feel like in India, I kind of somehow lost broccoli when we were growing up. Also, it's not really a locally grown seasonal vegetable in India. But yeah, let's make sure that our kids continue to kind of enjoy that and find fun ways of incorporating broccoli.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Now, I'm supposed to end this. Yes. Okay, great. So this brings us to an end of this episode. Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this was I felt like it was a very honest, candid, heartfelt conversation. Bringing a different view, an investor's view to the table. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Sakshi.
Amazing. Now let's do the 20 questions. So we have this like fun part.
Okay.
It's going to be one word answers. Very, very quick. And it's going to be directed only to you. So we're going to start. Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Same. What's your go-to when you're ill?
Rice. White rice.
White rice. Sushi rice or normal?
No, normal rice.
What's your favorite cuisine?
Japanese.
Nice.
100%.
Yeah, it's the best. Favorite breakfast?
Shakshuka?
Yum.
I never do make it though.
I know, I haven't made it either, but I do enjoy a nice shakshuka. It's heavy though.
It is.
Yeah, we can skip lunch. Favorite sweet treat?
It has to be the powdered breast.
Most recent food discovery?
Okra and noodles. It's actually quite
Really? We have a lot of okra growing up in
do.
India. It's anti-diabetic. It's really good. I've covered this. What food did you love as a child?
Japanese curry, which is very far from Indian curry. It's like fake curry.
Yeah. Favorite drink?
Coffee.
And that brings me to my next question. Tea or coffee?
Coffee all the time.
Okay, what's your go-to food for a cleanse?
I don't really cleanse, but I have to choose one. It's probably broccoli
That's a good
to
one.
do a broccoli cleanse.
Yeah. Starter or dessert?
Dessert.
Favorite condiment?
Chives?
Ooh. What's your food heaven?
My food heaven? I don't know, like a really nice croissant in the morning.
Oh, I remember that from SoftBank time. You used to have your croissant
butter.
when you were pregnant. What's your food hell?
Bland food. Yeah.
Same. Yeah. Juice or smoothies?
Smoothies.
Guilty pleasure food?
Oh, that's hard. Shake Shack.
Ooh, it's been a while. Best way to cook your eggs?
Omelette.
An omelette. Okay. Home cooking or dining out?
Home cooking all the time.
Home cooking. Give us a controversial food opinion.
A controversial food opinion?
Yeah.
I hate British food. I'm sorry.
Because it's quite bland. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you very much.